Hey everyone, this is Andrew Lucky Tree Lichtenberger for Octopi Poker, and today I want to take a look at a couple of hands that happened at the recent 1K Mystery Millions final table from the WSOP. So let's go ahead and jump in here. This first hand, we see we still are eight-handed, and there's, a few short stacks. We have one player in particular in the small blind that only has two big blinds, and action folds around to the hijack, and they raise it up straight away to eight big blinds with these deuces. And, it's very interesting because we have this format of the mystery bounty. So I don't know specifically what bounty tickets were left in the prize pool at that point, but in general, you'd think this is a pretty bad spot for this player with deuces. It's not appealing for them to play for so many chips when the button covers them. They don't necessarily want to commit against the big blind, but I think what was going on here is that they decided that if they can get the button out of the pot, they could basically open shove, very effectively. And while I think that's a very valid idea, it doesn't feel to me like they need to raise so big because for the times that the button does play a hand, we're sacrificing, almost 40% of our chips. We start the hand with just under 30 big blinds, we're raising to 8. So it feels to me like a lot more effective approach would just be to raise to, 2.5 or 3 big blinds. We're committed against the cutoff, we're committed against the small blind, and we're essentially committing ourselves against the big blind, assuming that the bounty is big enough that we want to, stick with it and see the hand through. I think it speaks to me to kind of an interesting concept, which shows up a lot in poker generally, where if you can accomplish the same thing with an action that costs you less when you're wrong and yields you kind of the same thing when you're right, we should always strive to find that answer. That's essentially, maximizing efficiency with the decisions we make. So as the hand played out, folded around to the big blind, they called. We see that there's, just under a third of the pot left, check. The deuces should be pretty concerned. I would say as the player with ace queen, just put the rest of the chips in pre-flop. There's not really a very compelling world in which we want to, get this hand to the flop and then somehow fold. If we do, we're sometimes going to fold the best hand. We also sometimes won't stack our opponent when we have the best hand and we've outflopped them, which we see here. The deuces bet very small. Ace queen shoves for less than a min raise, and deuces, of course, at this point is in no man's land. We got to fold this hand, and he does. It's quite fascinating to me that the deuces decided to c-bet. Obviously, there's a ton of chips in the pot, but when the guy calls such a big pre-flop raise, it feels like there's pretty much always going to be the presence of high cards in this range. So fascinating spot. I think bounty final tables are really interesting, and I don't have a ton of experience exploring them, so